Welcome to the Carpinteria Art Center. I'm very glad you can make it here today. My name is Gib Johnson. I'm one of many volunteers here, and many of the people in this audience are also volunteers. Welcome to the Art Center's final show for 2014. The show is called Portals, which many of you know already. If you're interested in the 2015 shows, that list of exhibition is already out. You can get one from me or from Teta. I hope, if you're an artist, I hope you'll bring your work, and if you're not an artist, I hope you'll come and see all of our shows this coming year. First of all, I want to thank the many volunteers who made this show possible. Those people include May Osher, Meg Ricks, Susan Meismer, Brian Tepper, Chris Sobel, Mary Henson, Romy Riker, Miguel Bernal, and Zoe Iverson. So thank you all very much and for making this show possible. I also want to thank, once again, all the volunteers who all year long keep this gallery open, and a special thanks to Teta for wrangling all the volunteers, of which I am one. So thanks, Teta, and thanks for all the volunteers.
All right.
I now would like to introduce you to Thomas Van Stein. Teta, did you want to say something to me?
Your mic's not.
All right, Larry can hear me. Okay, I'll get closer. Is that better? A little better. Maybe better? Okay. I'd like to introduce you to Thomas Van Stein. We're very happy to have him come here today to give a juror's talk for Portals. Thomas is a local artist. He was born in 1961, and he spent much of his youth in Carpinteria. He's been a professional artist since 1984. He graduated, that same year he graduated from Cal State Northridge with a bachelor's degree in art with an emphasis on illustration. In 1999, he received his master's degree in art from Cal State Northridge. He is best known for what he calls his plein air nocturnes. Many of you are familiar with his romantic nighttime paintings. He has been a member of the acclaimed Oak Group for 30 years. And in 2003, he won the Individual Artist Award for Santa Barbara County, given by the Arts Fund. In 2004, he won the Director's Choice Award at the Carnegie Art Museum in Oxnard. In 2005, he had a solo museum exhibition called Urban Nocturnes at the Carnegie Art Museum. In 2007, he won second prize for the Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History's Art Walk. In 2009, he won the third prize for the Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History's Art Walk. And in 2014, his work appeared in the 103rd Annual California Art Club Gold Medal Exhibition in Los Angeles. He has had scores of exhibitions and received scores of awards. He's been teaching art at Santa Barbara City College, continuing education for 28 years. He teaches plein air, he teaches oil painting, watercolors, and acrylics. For decades, Thomas has studied art all over the world. The love of travel is in his DNA. His world study of art informs his work and his choices here today as a juror. Lastly, I want to leave you with a quote from Thomas, a quote that states his philosophy. Quote, "It's all to get more feeling for the edge. As an artist, if you are not living life on the edge, you are taking up too much room." So I want to give this to you, Thomas.
Oh!
And we're honored to have you here, and I'll let you begin.
Thank you. Wow, I get paid in advance for this. This is really cool, man. I really like that. Let's see if I can bring this up a little bit here so I don't have to bend over. Oh, that's good. Well, I want to say this is really a great opportunity, and I want to thank you guys for selecting me to come and do this jurying. I think this is the second time I've juried the Carpinteria Valley Art Association show here, but this is the probably the finest collection so far that I've seen. Okay, it just, to me, the shows keep getting better and better and better. So that tells me that the artists that are contributing to this are getting better and better and better. And I think that the process of submitting artwork to these shows and getting feedback, not only from myself, but from other people, other artists, and the public, serves to increase our ability to paint. So, So there you go. I'm really happy. Every time I walk in the show to see what it looks like after the jurying process, I'm even more confident of what was selected and how it's presented. And that's important. What this did was create a magical space for the artwork to speak. There were 154, 155 paintings that were submitted. And in this space here, I wound up taking 64, I think. 63, 64 paintings. So the process wasn't easy. Let me just tell you a little bit about the process. Well, first, let's back it up with the concept of portholes. It's a pretty abstract concept. It has many meanings, there's many layers to that concept. So one of the things I wound up doing before I even attempted to jury was to go through my mind and write out all the different possibilities or what portals means. So I knew right away that it was going to be a pretty broad interpretation of that concept. So in the end, it was interesting for me as a landscape painter, someone who paints representationally, to wind up choosing paintings that had, as far as the award winners go, choosing the paintings that were mostly interpretive of the subject in an abstract way. Things that, or paintings that had some symbolism of what might be a portal if you study it, rather than paintings that just had a window necessarily going somewhere, you know. Everything is a portal, I found out. However, the essence was just, you know, just enough so I could slightly have to, you know, work to figure it out. All right, it challenged me. It wasn't something that I'd already seen or something that I'd already known. It was just enough to get me there and then for me to say yes. So as far as the concept, that was part of the beginning stage. Then I would look at the craftsmanship of the piece. In other words, how was it presented? Was the framing, you know, was it nice? You know, was there fingerprints on the mat? Or was there, you know, it had to meet a number of criteria in order for it to make it into the show. There were some pieces that I probably could have allowed into the show, but in order to lift the show up, those might just not have been right for this space. Were the space larger, they probably would have made it in the show. So once again, you have to operate on many different levels when you're deciding which pieces are going to make it in the show and which are not. There were some paintings that were entered in, and they were not literal. In other words, it wasn't like you were looking out a porthole in a boat. You know, that's sort of a portal. A porthole is a portal. They were more abstract, and they didn't. I wasn't getting the concept. I wasn't getting their slant on that, you know, that thesis. So then I'd ask the people helping me to turn it around and tell me if there's a title on the back. Let me back it up a second. I'd ask what's the title of the piece, and they would give me the title that had something to do with portals, but I wasn't getting it. So I'd have them turn it around, and there'd be nothing written on the back. And so I'd say, well, I have to. It just doesn't work for the show because it could be anything. They were just entering it with a title that might have gotten it in. So I had to make a decision then to not allow that piece. Of all the paintings that did not get into the show, it would be interesting to have something like this for all of those paintings. Yeah? Because that's how you also lift the body of art from any artists that pay money to get juried into a show. They can take the words from the critique back into their studios. I plant some seeds, and they can think about it. And they may be totally resistant to that. But someday they may be painting, you know, and they might say, oh, so that's what he was talking about. You never know when something's going to, you know, strike home, or when a chord is going to be, or is going to strike true. You notice that I'm talking a lot about the paintings that didn't get in the show? Like I said, you know, they were as important of a part of this exhibition than the ones that you're seeing. Because they offered a contrast. They offered a contrast for me to create a cohesive exhibition. So when you walk in, there's some theme, and there's some harmony, and there's some, you know, there's a feeling of inspiration and enlightenment that you can get just by walking through the inside of the gallery. And once again, it has to come from, you know, presentation, craftsmanship, skill level, size. There were some paintings that were really large and of an almost three-dimensional collage, which I could have allowed that in if the space was larger, but once again, I had to choose between that painting or that piece and another artist's piece, or the other painting from that same artist, which kind of didn't have anything to do with this one piece. All right? And I had to take into consideration the size of the space and what we're going to get in. What's going to make it look right so it doesn't look cluttered. So there you go. That's part of my process on what I'm thinking about when I choose to orchestrate a show. And every show is different. Were this at the Faulkner Gallery, for instance, in Santa Barbara, you all know where the Faulkner Gallery is, or the Goleta Valley Art Association, which is kind of a square room, I may have chosen differently as well. It's all about the environment, and the environment starts with the shape of the room that you're in. Someday when there's a building here and there's an environment that's created by the architecture, that'll also be a determining factor for which paintings or artworks get into a show. At least if I'm the juror, you know. So you have to take into consideration the whole. Also, one of the things I do have to admit that I did take into consideration was this is your guys' holiday show. And I understand that, you know, we need to support this space. We need to have paintings in there that are for sale, and try to have as much artwork in as possible to guarantee those sales. So we can keep, you know, moving up. I got a lot of faith in this place. It keeps getting better, like I said, better and better and better. And someday we'll look back on this time, yeah, and you'll think, oh, I remember when there was this little shack out in the back here, you know? Remember back when? All the good old days, yes. So what I would like to do, I'd like to receive any questions you might have here about myself, about the process, before we go inside. Because I'd also like to talk about the choices that I made and why. Sometimes it's a little hard for me to be in my mind and think about that show and what's inside and talk about it here. Okay? So if there are any questions about this process that you'd like to bring up right now, that'd be fine. I'll be happy to ask, and then we can just kind of move through. Yes?
I don't know how you can process so rapidly so many pieces. I mean, you've done it like half the time of most.
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question was, she doesn't know how I can process the amount of work so quickly. And for her, it seemed like it was in half the time that other jurors in the past have taken. All I can say is that it's just from experience. I've been teaching, like I said, for almost 30 years. And so I see a lot of art. I see a lot of student art. I'm out in the world. I see a lot of professional art. I've seen art all over the world. And my job is to, to draw upon my experience and my knowledge and be decisive. And then be willing to also sometimes second guess myself. So the process was for this show, with everything out there, I did a once through, just to look at everything, every single piece. And once I had done that, I started on a second tour, and I started taking away, paintings for sure that were not going to make it in. Okay, and we started taking them out, and then some I would say were slightly questionable, and I'd start a pile over here for the slightly questionable ones. Then for the third time around, I started picking the ones that would be possible or potential award winners. Kind of give them their own space. As well as, start to get a little deeper in understanding of each of the individual paintings or artworks that I was looking at. In other words, looking a little more closely at the work. And that included some of the presentation. And reminding myself, remember the size of the space, There's many levels you work on really quickly. I had great help as well from you guys. Right? It's like this one out, this one, I don't know, I'll put this over here, I'm not sure about that, It's just like, you have to think fast. You have to think fast. So I can only sum it up from experience, only because I've juried Art Association shows and Goleta Valley Art Association shows and over the past years. And then when I teach my classes, we have critique. And usually I approach it with a praise, slap, praise approach. And I encourage the students to do that too. They have to develop a critical eye. Okay, not only for their own work, but for other people's work, or vice versa. Not only for other people's work, but for their own work. I try to teach them to have that critical eye so they look harder at their own work than they do other people's work. And that they may never be completely happy with their own work. Like they might get to the part and say, yeah, that looks great, And they put it away and they come back the next day and look at it and they wonder who ruined it overnight. So you'll never be completely satisfied with a painting, but you're excited enough to try to fix it if it isn't working. And then once you think you've nailed it, you're so excited about the process that you want to do another one or do one that's better. Okay, so that spark stays alive, it stays lit. So that's another part of this process is being so passionate about the art and about the process and about what you're doing, and heck, you're creating something that is going to be left behind. It's sort of like there's a portal here, right? This is the channel of creativity that comes through your body, and you get to see something manifest before your eyes. So it's sort of like spirit into form. And then there it is, yeah? Every brush stroke, everything that you've done kind of represents every experience you've had in your life from the time you were born to that moment in time when that brush stroke was made. Okay? So when it's done, it's a complete work, and it's sort of like, it's out in the world, and now what are you going to do? Right? So you got to learn to forgive yourself too on this, because like I said, it might be perfect to you, and this is your ego, and you feel really good about it, and it's and then someone comes along, hey, did you see you had a tangent right here? A tangent is some intersecting contour lines in a painting, okay, and it flattens the space in a way that kind of creates ambiguity. So that, it's like, oh God, I didn't see that. Geez, my painting's not perfect? So you have to be willing to put yourself out there and subject yourself to critique. Not necessarily criticism, but that may come along with it too. There's some validity to every bit of feedback that you get, whether it's positive or negative or neutral. It just, and it doesn't matter. What's important is the feedback. So when you're creating your works, like in here, you all were given the challenge to stay within the theme of portholes. And some of you succeeded better than others. Some of them were better maybe than the ones that I chose for award winners. But I have to make a decision and try to back it up. Yes?
Is your process for jurying a show similar to your process when you paint? And what I
Yes. Yes. Abstract to specific. Is the process for jurying a show similar to the process of when I paint? And I would say yes. When I paint, I spirit into form, abstract concept, inspiration, manifestation.
But also elimination.
Oh yes.
Reduction.
Reduction, yes, it's a reductive technique. I like to say that it's not what necessarily goes into the artwork that makes it a success, but what you choose to edit out. See, it takes two artists to paint the painting or create the artwork, one to create it, one to paint it, and one to stop them from ruining it. All right? So I tell my students, all right, you start off abstract to specific, okay? You just slop the paint on there, you do whatever, you get it working, you get it, and you try to hold it together, and the best you can with the color, the line, the form, whatever. And then you start to refine it. You just make small adjustments. And then finally you put it away and you come back and you make an even minor adjustment. So it's a huge dance, It's like jazz dance to, something that's a little more, maybe tap dance, I don't know. Just a little bit of adjustments at the end. Sometimes people get into a painting and they'll do the jazz dance all the way through from beginning to end, and it's out of control and it winds up being too much. So, it's about learning finesse. So, did that answer your question a little bit? Yes?
What percentage of intuition is involved?
100%.
Question.
Well, the percentage of intuition involved in the creating of a painting, and that's 100%. From the moment you even think about it, I have my students carry around sketchbooks, right? And in order to realize an idea, they've got to write about it. They've got to write down thoughts about it. They need to do little thumbnail sketches, okay? Work out the composition, find their reference material, get as much feedback and information as possible understood before they go on the journey. It's like drawing a roadmap for the subconscious. Okay, preliminary sketches, thumbnail sketches. So when they do go on that journey, they've got all the answers. They know what's going to be their focal point. They know what's going to be their darkest values, their lightest values, their warmest colors, their coolest colors, their richest colors, their grayest colors. They're going to know what's going to be simplified and what's going to be defined. You ever been on a journey where you didn't have a map? Figuring out you'll get there, eventually? I mean, so many times when I teach, students they'll get halfway or 3/4 of the way through the painting and they won't know what to do. And a lot of that is only because they did not prep enough, or they didn't do enough preliminary work. And that also comes from experience as well. Okay, so it's like drawing a roadmap for the subconscious, and so when you go on that journey, it's all intuitive. Aha, I'm going to do this first, then this, then this, then this. It's process orientation on a two-dimensional surface. Or even with three-dimension, you see the form, you draw it from as many different angles as possible, the scale, the volume, you draw it out. Who's a sculptor here? Anybody a sculptor? No? Yes? Oh, yes? Okay. Well, anyways, with knowledge comes choices. So if you can work out in advance as much as you can, then you'll have an easier time manifesting that finished piece. Go team. Yeah. Yes.
With something that's purely non-representational, how do you do that roadmap? I don't know if you can explain that simply or not.
Something that's strictly abstract, just
Right.
basically non-figurative.
Exactly.
Non-figurative piece. How do you do that roadmap?
Yeah.
Thumbnails, just working out, maybe just a black and white sketch, maybe no more than 3 values, light, midtones, dark. Get it working on the format. The format is what's going to dictate how the shapes align within the painting. Whatever it is, where they're going to flow, where the focal point's going to be, and there's a few little rules you want to maintain, for a painting. Like you don't want to have the focal point dead center, right? So that's something that you work out. The whole idea is to have a variety of shapes, a variety of colors, values, and so you can lead the viewer into the painting, even if it's an abstract painting. You can lead them into some place to go without them having to effort. If you don't have it organized in a certain way, then chances are they're gonna get overwhelmed, and it's going to be a challenge for them to stay in that painting. They say the average painting in a museum gets maybe 4 seconds of attention from the viewer. Okay, 4 seconds. Of course, this could be the result of ADD. Information age, MTV generation that is prevalent now. It's too easy to get on your cell phone. In fact, there's a great picture that I saw on Facebook, and you're in the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, and you have the night watch, Amsterdam's night watch, on the wall, and in the foreground of the picture is about 6 high school aged girls. They're all sitting, they're not looking at the painting, they're all sitting there, and each one has their cell phone and they're doing stuff like this. So we're open to interpretation. We're like to say, back in my day, they didn't have those. You paid more attention to the artwork and stuff. But some people would chime in and say, well, how do we know that the teacher didn't give an assignment, to look up the reference, and they were all doing it? I like to think that way myself.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So once again, it's a multi-level approach. You're not dependent on a curator to walk around and give you little stories and things about a particular work of art. We actually, each of us, have access to more information now about a work of art than we've ever had before. I mean, we are going to evolve in my opinion, in the next 10 to 20 years beyond the beyond. Just because of access, instant access to information on art alone, just on art. We're looking at, I don't want to go off too much on a tangent here, but we're looking at masterworks in the museums now. I mean, as a society, as a culture, as a human species, we get to see the artwork that those artists, when they were creating, they might have got to see a masterpiece from another artist maybe once in their life. They didn't have TV, they didn't have radio, they didn't have multi-mediums like we have now. So think what that's going to do to the younger generation when they now have access, or even artists go online and look at other art and steal those ideas, steal the compositions, steal the colors, so you can, evolve and increase the depth of your own work. So I would recommend that. Artists steal. A lot of painters out there that like to just, go and paint. But paint with a purpose, Any other questions? Anything? Yeah.
You said purpose.
Yeah.
What do you consider a purpose?
Paint with a purpose. Well, mindfulness. You can create art for art's sake, which means you're doing it because it pleases you. So in a sense, you're being mindful, but also be willing to dig deep on how to do it even better. We all have certain skill levels here. Some of them, are pretty high. Yet there's someone out there that has even higher. okay? And we've all been rejected, yeah? We've all been rejected. That's all part of the process. It's just not the time. That's all it is, you know? I mean, how many times have you heard a story, like one of my students, for instance, you know, he did a painting and he entered it into the Natural History Museum, the art walk there, and he got it rejected. So he takes it down, puts it into Gallery 113, and he wins first prize. That happens all the time. So it's not personal, it's just subjective. And, you know, everything will fit into place eventually. Yeah, so did that answer your question?
To some extent.
To some extent, okay. Let me see if I can do better.
Just kind of have fun sometimes.
How to have fun sometimes? Well,
I like to just play, especially with abstract.
you like to just play with abstract. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So maybe how can you challenge yourself then? I'm asking you, if you're going to have fun and play, is there a way you can challenge yourself?
Well, I'm not sure how much challenge I want if I'm having fun. But you reach a point where
Yeah.
you do look at it and say, where am I going and what's happening?
Yeah.
Which isn't like
Do you like being lost in a piece? Because that's scary, getting lost in a piece.
like having fun.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm not having fun, if I'm doing like photographic or whatever, it's just not my thing. I can't even do it well. I mean, that's why it's not my
I couldn't hear that last.
I don't do photographic very well. Maybe that's not why. That's
Yeah.
not my thing.
I understand. Yeah. Well, I said, you know, art is like a suit of clothes. Some fit better than others. So you just need to keep interested and intrigued. That's it. And
You're surprised. I like the surprise.
oh yeah, we all like the surprise. We want a painting to paint itself.
Yeah.
We want the artwork to be manifested and take on a life of its own. Yeah, so you don't have to touch it. It's like, it's there for the millennium if it lasts, you know. So it looks effortless in some way, shape, or form. It looks like it has spontaneity and immediacy and, you know, it's vitality and it's there. And of course, that's where I like to go with something that's a little more painterly. That's where I like to push myself. And I'm not quite there yet. I work at it and I try, but I'm, you know, sometimes I'm pretty hard on myself, you know. So, but we're living in the biggest room in the universe, and that's the room for improvement. Yeah? So that's why I say you got to forgive yourself and move on. And like put that away. If you don't have the answer to it, if you don't have the answer, put it away. Move on to the next thing. You know, because as you evolve and you become more realized in your manifestations of art, you'll look back and you might have an answer for it tomorrow or 2 years from now. It just takes time, but the idea is just to get miles and miles of canvas behind you. That's an artist's job, is just to produce. Just keep producing.
There is a problem with that.
Yeah, there's a problem with that.
Storage.
Storage. If you build it, it will come. I know, well this is, you know, we're creating a porthole here, okay? We're all learning something, we're all here gathered. I'm speaking, you're listening, you're speaking, I'm listening. There's a realization that's happening. And you have to trust that you're doing what you need to be doing all the time. You got to let go of the worry, oh, I'm not going to paint this because I don't know where to store it. You just store it. You know, who was I? I went to the Jewish Federation for the art show that was there, and I have 3 students that were Holocaust survivors. Over the last 20 years, I've known these students. And one of them is Margaret Singer, I think. Yeah. Sure. And I asked her, I said, where do you paint? Where's your studio? She goes, my bedroom. Oh, your bedroom? She goes, yeah, I paint on the floor. I'm like, you do? How do you do it? She goes, I just get down on my hands and knees and I paint. I go, well, there you go. That's the answer. You know, where there's a will, there's a way.
She's winning prizes.
I know she's winning but she deserves them.
She's older too.
Catch that on film.
The cat's on the ears.
Oh, the cat's on the other side. Oh, perfect.
Cat's happy. Cat and squirrel.
So my point is, just stay passionate about it. Don't worry about storage. You know, that's an excuse. That's an excuse. You know, I mean, we only have so much time on the planet. Who cares? You know, you'll find a spot. You know, find boxes, put them in your garage if you have to. You know, but the whole point is, if you can create, I would suggest, in order to evolve yourself as an artist and to work, is to come up with a thesis. All right. So each painting, the way I look at each painting in here, each individual painting is a thesis within itself. Okay. It has a beginning. It has a theme, it has an idea. It has a beginning, middle, end, and it's a complete work of art. And it should stand on its own. And you should be able to stand in front of a committee and defend that painting, okay, for your thesis, whatever it is. But sometimes it's important to, you know, come up with an idea first before you paint. Okay? So, and then within that, how about creating a body of work? Try 3 paintings that have that theme to it. You know, work up to 30 paintings like Monet, you know, in the Rouen Cathedral series. You know, he planted himself for 6 months in that room across from the cathedral and hired a boy every 20 minutes to come and take one painting away and put the other one there, and he would just work. Take one painting, yeah, that's how he produced that whole series. So there's process there. So in the end of that 6 months, he had a huge show. You know, the theme was the same, but the color and the light that he was seeing changed. So, and then his process also changed too. So I would recommend that too. You know, if you're going to be serious and you're going to continue to create more art, think about having some continuity to what it is you're doing. Try to find your métier. Okay, the métier, it's your signature of your brush strokes, something that defines you and what it is you're doing from every other artist that's out there. Your personality shines through. So, you know, 100 years from now, hopefully not that long, when someone's going to a yard sale, shall we say levitating, or in a UFO or something, going to a yard sale down the street, okay, and they find, you know, one of your pieces and it's not signed, they'll be able to look, oh, that looks like a, you know, so-and-so's painting, right? Because they have some recognizable style or métier. All right, so that's also part of this process is, you know, and that the way to get there is to have something that you do that's different than everybody else, but something out that you're working on. All architecture, you know, architecture in direct sunlight, architecture at night, architecture, you know, just, that's why I did the night paintings, you know. The night already has a, you know, a theme. But now there's two aspects of night. There's moonlight, beautiful moonlights, and there's, you know, more urban, eerie, industrial, dark, moody places. And the moonlights don't go with those, okay? My master's thesis was on the urban things that, to meet the university criteria, had to be unsellable work. It had to be, you know, not pretty picture-ish.
It had to be unsellable.
Unsellable for 2 years. Yeah, I had to create those works. And long story short, in the my thesis exhibition, I sold 3 paintings for like $11,000. Yeah. And it blew the university came in. They were like, "Oh, do we get a part of this?" And you know, because no one ever sells in a master's show. You know? So. Anyway, so that's a process that you might want to consider. You know, stick to a theme, whether it's color harmony or medium or size. You know, consistency. What can you do to make your work more consistent? Okay. All right. Any other questions? Yes, Mary.
Why did you have to do something that was unsellable? What is unsellable? What is unsellable?
That's like portals. What's unsellable? here I was, a professional artist coming back to school to get my master's, all right? And I was already used to selling paintings, but I was painting themes that were more to sell. So unsellable means more art for art's sake, or painting and hoping to sell, as opposed to painting to sell. When you paint to sell, you're kind of stuck to cliches and things that guaranteed a sale, you know, because it's all about money. You know, people just want to get that money. They feel if they sell a painting, there's something that they are doing right. And in a sense they are. I mean, they've connected to an audience when they sell it. They're developing an audience. But the motivating factor winds up being money. Money is dictating it. And so what happens is an artist will try to repeat that performance. And they'll turn into formula artists. All right, where the entire underpainting will be the same every single time. And all they have to do is, you know, put paint on canvas, frame it and sell it, because that's all they care about. Yeah. So it's just a way of raising your work from being, you know, kind of low, middle art to high art. You know, the high artists, I would think, are a little more conceptual, a little more intellectual in their approach. The unsellable work. So it all depends. But you have echelons of art out there as well, where people will still sell that work. But you have people that you have a public that believes in that intellectual side of the art and has the money to support that. So you go from folks that love to have a picture because it goes with a blue couch, and you have folks that will buy it because they're collectors and they have a certain level of sophistication and awareness of what art trends are in America and in the world. Okay? This is our little bubble here, you see. We have, you know, we have a little microcosm here in Carpinteria. So that's another thing, you know, find out what the art trends are in the world, you know.
Is there an art trend?
Not really. No, they're still searching for it. And it's we're still in the postmodern stage.
Everybody wants black and white around here. That's the next few shows coming up, black and white.
Yeah, there's a black and white show at the Jewish Federation, correct?
There's going to be.
There's going to be, yeah. There you go. But how about here? What are the shows that are coming up here?
The glowing illumination.
Illumination.
And Casa has luminaries.
Luminaries.
Yeah,
Right,
Luminaries.
right.
That's the show now they're playing.
Okay. Okay. So it's about light.
Light.
Okay. So that's easy enough. Right? It's all light. Everything we see is light. So how's that? We're a little bit closer. Are we a little closer to, you know, understanding? This is where I come from when I go into here and I'm given the opportunity to jury and be as unbiased as possible, and then choose the award winners that best not only suit me, but I feel suits the criteria and also represents a higher form of art for the Carpinteria Valley Art Association. So, yes, Mary.
When you jury a show, do you, some jurors want to know who painted the painting and some don't want to know?
No.
Does it make a difference?
I don't want to know who painted it. I just want to know, if I can't figure it out, like I said, what's the title? And then they tell me the title, and if it still doesn't, like I said, doesn't ring true, or I'm not getting it again, I said, is it written on the back? And if it's not, then I said, it's too hard. I have to make a choice, you know. Sometimes it does get in, though. Yeah. Yes.
Some things are very hard to title.
Well, see, that's a different situation there as well. You know, in the '60s, it became very avant-garde to have untitled work.
With a number.
Yeah, or a number. Yeah, that's this conceptual realm. That's the high art. See, the idea is to grab the imagination of your audience and to stop their eye and to intrigue them and have them want to, you know, figure you out and figure it out. And sometimes the more you leave open to their interpretation and they feel welcome to interpret it, the better it is and the more success you have. If you title a piece, you're telling them, well, this is my interpretation, that's what's important, and this is what I want you to think. Okay? But you want feedback. You know, you really do want feedback. You want to evoke a response from your audience. Even if it's like, that is just a bunch of crap. To like, oh my God, that takes me back to my childhood. You know, you just want feedback. You want a response. That's important. If they walk on and look at it, yeah, well, that's a response too. But it's more important for you to actually see them do that as opposed to not. And you can't see it if you're not there. So you got to go to art shows. You got to go to art shows and see what people are, what's their response to art in general. The public, that is. And even other artists. Sometimes critical feedback from other artists is more important than from the public. All right, those are the ones, you know, especially if you find a teacher, you know, someone that you really gravitate towards and you're learning, a mentor type of thing, that when you're off and running, you think of that person, you have their words in your head, and you're producing work and you're almost ashamed of it. That you wouldn't want him to walk into your studio and look at it, you know? It's just like, oh God, I can't believe I did that, you know? Anyways, that's another aspect of this. Any other questions, thoughts, feels? What I'd like to do is go inside. I'm going to get some water, if that's possible, and we'll go into the room that has the award winners, and then we'll just kind of have a little dialogue about that. And then I want to open myself up to any questions you may have about your own work, and it's all about possibilities. Let me step here. So I'd like to work from the top down, okay? The award winner here, like I said before, art is like a suit of clothing. Some clothes fit better than others. And after seeing all these different paintings, the more representational and traditional paintings, and then the ones that were relatively mostly abstract, I chose this one to win the show. And then I also have to tell you that some of these awards changed. Okay, I had them all lined up here, and I went about 2 or 3 times switching second place to first place to third. You know, in my mind, you know, that was like a horse race. You know, but I wound up choosing this painting here by Julianne. Because it suggested the idea. It was suggested. Okay, it wasn't too literal. I get bored with the literal. That's just me. Okay, I get bored with the literal. If something's too realistic, I could be awe-inspired by something that's photorealistically rendered, just by the skill level. But then again, there's too many photographs out there, and things are a little too, I guess, dictatorial. They're telling me everything I need to know. This one here was leaving enough space for me to make up my own mind. And I think it has enough vitality and liveliness to it that for the rest of my life, if I were to own it, I would look at it and I would be able to go somewhere different every time I looked. Okay? So it evoked my imagination the most. Plus the yin colors were pretty cool. Yin meaning the cooler blue-greens, very, very sensitively done. I love the transparent quality to the paint as well. So in other words, you've got some opaque colors that are solid, and then you've got some glazed, transparent washes, and a few, deliberate strokes, and somewhere for me to go. And I think I could turn that thing in all 4 directions and just have some fun with it.
Yeah.
And I might see something different. So each time. So that was the reason why I chose this piece. Second place was Garrett Spears here, because I've known Garrett for years, and I know his skill level, and I know he works on many different mediums. And I got it. This is a more of a literal interpretation, something that's representational, meaning you can identify what the subject matter is. Okay, it's obvious it's a church window. So, well, to me it looks more like a church window anyways. It may not be.
Can you stand a little closer?
How's that? Okay. To me, I asked him to come today. I actually sent him an email. I said, please come. I want to talk about your painting. How he might consider doing something like this in the future. Just a couple of little things. Since it is a representational piece, we do get the idea. However, it's relatively flat. It's relatively flat. Some of the areas where there should be more reflected light, I'm not getting the dimensional quality or the depth to the piece. Mostly because he'll take a space like in here, and it'll all be one solid shape, which creates some sort of ambiguity. Whereas if you had a darker edge, if you understood how light falls on the form, it will have a slight darker edge closer to you, and then a little lighter, more reflected light further away. So it's more of a light issue. It's a light issue, but it was just enough for me to say, you know what, Garrett, you need to just paint a little bit more, or be a little more selective. This is what happens when you paint from photographs too. Photographs don't always pick up the light, and and I can tell. It's also another issue here with cast shadows as well. He kind of he got a little lazy in the interpretation of the shadows. It kind of looks like brown bushes as opposed to a cooler cast shadows. So that was just an idea, and he could probably say, it looked like that. And that artist's job, if you're painting from a photograph and it looks like that, your job is to change it so it looks right. That's where artists sometimes go wrong, is they rely too much on the photograph to tell them what's going on. So you got to be willing to change things. What else do we have in here? Honorable mention. These went back and forth. This to me took me back to a primal, something primal. Somewhere in Africa, there was something there that was an essence. I love the painterly quality to it. I love the variations in color. It was somewhat some redundancy in color though, in that the brown seemed to be the usage of the same color brown for what's closer to me and what's further away kind of creates a little bit. It's a little hard for me to grasp, only because there's just too much of the same. So, I would have liked to have seen, some variations a little bit more in the back. Same with the blue. It's a challenge to work with complementary colors like this. But there's just enough suggestion going on that it was intriguing enough, and whether these were doors or whether it was, a birth canal, I don't know, which is also
It's a dome.
It's a dome?
Yes.
Okay. Is this your painting?
No, it's Karen Luckett.
Is she here?
I think
No,
it's
she's a
Jerusalem.
friend of mine.
That's
so,
right.
yeah.
It's Jerusalem?
Yeah.
Okay, I've been there. I was baptized in Jerusalem, believe it or not. But I was thinking more Africa, just because of the color usage, and the domes and things. But what do I know? Also, the choice to make the focal point dead center, is also, it's a little hard because it makes the negative spaces the same, and there's some static quality to it, so it doesn't move around as
May I
much.
ask you something?
Yeah.
To me, to focus in background,
Yeah.
I like it to be more not so focused.
Yeah. See, you use the same color for all your answers.
Yeah, but
That's too much of the sameness. It becomes redundant and not enough variety. And variety is the spice of life. So now down here, I have seen this painting before, and of course I I took this more as far as portals is concerned. This is called Camper Park. You know, that's the first time I've even known the title to this. I was thinking back more into the 1920s, you know, 1930s, some of the Mexican folk art or the Frida Kahlo era, you know, the Mexican muralists, and you know, there's some surrealism going on here as well. I would never have guessed that was a trailer park, but or camper park. But where I was getting it was the ambiance became the portal. The ambience, the spiritual quality to it, you know, the Virgin Mary and the lights and the Festival of the Lights and how magical things get at night, and you know, a community gathering, and there's music, and there's actually it looks like they're paying homage to the Virgin Mary. So it's and then the moon's rising, right? So there's a lot of spiritual quality to this. So I was getting that. It was, and this one also went back and forth between second place and honorable mention. You know, I mean, it was a tug. It was tugging at me. This is C.K. Lord. C.K. Lord, and it's a beautiful presentation. Personally, I probably would have hung it higher as opposed to lower. Actually, to be truly presented in its rightful space, it should be on a darker wall by itself. Okay, with a light on it that you could adjust with a rheostat, and as you turn the light down, it actually glows from within. The term is chiaroscuro. Okay, it brings in more of the luminosity on a dimly lit. You know, location. So
Thomas, there's a third place.
oh, let's look at third place. Okay, once again, what I gave this third place for was because you know, I could imagine myself looking through windows. Okay, I also looked at the execution of it. It's something I've never done, something I probably can't do, something I maybe will never do. But it was done in a nice, professional, decisive manner, and there's just enough of the underpainting showing through of this green that I was really intrigued. It's what should we say? It looks effortless. It looks decisive and spontaneous. So they knew what they were doing without doing too much. It doesn't look labored. Okay, so there's enough there so I can live with this. Probably it could also be on a darker wall with a, you know, maybe a better format of a darker frame around it, a little more pricey presentation. It deserves it. Okay, just because there's so much color and you know, could be the space, but if you can imagine it too with, you know, a little larger, maybe 2-inch frame on it, without a bunch of other paintings around, it would work. So I would also consider maybe turning it the opposite way, although if that's a typewriter it might fall, I'm not sure. So this is another thing that I want you to think about when you're creating your works of art, is the underpainting has a huge amount to do with the final piece. That's the beginning stage. Remember, it's sort of like the concept to the written ideas, to the thumbnail sketches, to the formatting of the canvas being equal to your thumbnails, to giving it a certain tone, and then with the intention of that underpainting becoming an integral part of the finished piece. And in this case, it's a huge part. I mean, look at how much that green underpainting comes through, and just the right amount in right locations. So, I mean, this could go to second place, you know, I mean, just because of the execution level. All right. Is this artist here today?
Rick Doring.
Yeah. Okay, well, there you go. Anyway, so that's you know, that's what I think about that.
Finish
So
the prizes, mine is right next to you.
finish the prizes?
If you finish the prize paintings, if you want.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I am. Okay. All right. So let's talk about this, and then I'll come into this room here and we can talk here.
Prize painting out there.
All right. Well, let's deal with that when we go out there. That way we don't have to shuffle back and forth. So this here, very nice presentation.
Beautiful frame.
Okay. It shows you cared. Okay. You cared, and you know, it's not for me. It probably wouldn't hang in my house. You know, I'm a little more rustic than this, but you know, you cared about it. This whole thing is honoring art and honoring the muse. You know, we're all excited about art. We want to stay there and we want to honor it. The more you honor it, the better your art will get. Okay, so you know, you spent some money and you got this framed really nicely. Okay, however, you don't want to have feedback when someone comes up to your painting and says, "God, nice frame." You know, you'd rather have them talk about the art, all right? So, but this is important, okay? Your care and presentation is really important, and it isn't overwhelming because you've given it enough space around it, okay? So this is the important part. I love the medium. I love the variety of the collage aspect, the gold. You know, I don't quite get it, but it's. And you know, did you title it? Yes, entrances. Good. Okay. Well, I saw a window. It looked like a mirror, and then another one right there. So you made it. So just on presentation alone, you made it into the show. Okay. It's almost secondary, the content of your choice, because I was just blown away. It's a good job. And there's nice harmony to it too. The gold ties in with that and everything. So I didn't know you had that kind of money. Buy a frame like that. Had I known, I would have been nicer to you in class.
Somebody gave me the frame.
Oh, someone gave you the frame. Even better. Paint for the... Okay, so why don't we... Okay. Very high level of skill. This artist can render, okay? The artist understands light, understands form. You know, and just the concept here as well is... the format of the triangle is also something that I've never seen. So, who's this artist? Anybody know?
What's the name?
Yes.
Brody Figueres.
Don't know.
Okay. So, this borders on, it goes in between, I'd say, high art and low art, in that it's more, it has a feeling of surrealism. There's some surreal quality to it. Like, you can almost imagine Salvador Dali would render with a really fine brush and blend and everything, and has hard edges, and the content is kind of surreal. To more illustration.
What about folk art?
I'm not quite getting folk art yet,
Okay.
but I'm getting, you know, more illustration in that it's telling a story. Okay, it's like this is for a children's book. Okay. So, not that that's not a high art in itself. It was just more literal than you know, what I was hoping for the content of the you know, the piece. However, like I said, for the uniqueness of the composition and the format and the concept and the skill level, that's why I gave him an honorable mention. Okay. Any thoughts on this? Anybody want to comment? Okay.
It catches your attention.
It does catch your attention. It almost falls away being presented next to all the, you know, things like this and stuff. It doesn't really do it justice. But someday when you guys have a more formidable gallery, okay, work like this, it will look even more substantial based on, you know, on that environment. It'll elevate it.
As a portal? I mean, did you think the frame itself could...
No, I did not. I saw that more as a portal. You know, it's like, okay, you know, obviously we're going to go into that and we're going to go down. And somebody's hibernating under there. The idea is sleepy. Huh?
Is it called Into the Rabbit Hole?
No, it's called Leaving the Hill. But no, I mean, it's not it's not a wormhole. It's a squirrel hole. It's a burrow. It's a burrow. Okay. So speaking of surreal, okay, we have, you know, the whole concept of portholes is surreal anyway, right? So there's some level of surrealism in here. We've got the literal, you know, cat looking through a hole. I'm not quite getting portal, but it is a hole, okay? And this is, once again, this would be a great illustration for a book, okay? So it's nice and bright, it's brilliant, you know, and you can write a children's story around it, okay? So each one of these is kind of like a portal for the imagination. Anybody could take one painting and start typing away, right? Typing away. This one here was a little up there, little lofty idea, little floaty, you know, little floaty, and a little dreamlike, a little, you know, a little too for me to, you know, it just didn't strike my my fancy for making the awards, only because of the in your face surreal content. That's all I could come up with right now. Maybe I would have liked to have seen fewer or more or whatever. What's he trying to say? It's called reoccurring dream. I'm tied up with balloons and I'm floating. Okay. So what we would do is come up with ideas how they could make a better painting. Okay. Right now, it looks to me like she's on a board and her hair is flying back. You know, like sometimes when you see a magician, you know, levitate somebody and they put the ring around them and stuff like that. They're so stiff. It's like, oh, come on, what's going on? They got some sort of rod in their back or whatever. And that's what she kind of looks like. It would have been interesting if she had a little more arch to her back and the hair wasn't so solid-like, you know. And also the way the dress kind of falls down in between these flowers. I would have probably maybe preferred to see something break up that shape so it didn't look, you know, solid. Anyway, so it's more of a rendering thing, so that's me.
The balloons, the color of the balloons correspond to the little light popping over the mountains.
Yeah, I see that now. See, this is another thing. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants here, okay? I'm just coming up with as many things as possible, but you guys see something else. It has nice texture, beautifully rendered, you know, really nice paint application. I would love to know how they did that, you know. What kind of surface did they work on to create this? It has an old world feel, you know, something from the 17th century. And maybe this is Florence in the 17th century, I don't know. Let's see, who was here that had the person looking out the window? Was there something over here? Okay.
It's in the back.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll get to that. Any questions?
Can you comment on this one?
On this one right here? Okay, this is a gallant effort. It's a gallant effort. It's seeing the forest through the trees. Is this your painting?
Yeah.
Okay. I get the idea. I do get the idea. It made it because I've been there. You know, I've been there. So, did you work from a photograph when you created that?
It's actually a recurring dream that I've had that I wanted to paint.
Is that your painting too?
No.
Okay. He stole your idea though. Maybe we should hang them together. So that's a recurring dream. Okay, so the only thing I would suggest to you is go online and put in, you know, forest, light through the trees, things like that. Find imagery. Find imagery. So you can actually get a greater realization of how light falls on the form. So, because right now this is all, it's not dreamlike enough. You know, it's just graphic. Everything's graphic, and your values are a little unrealized here. So you would get more depth and more interest from your viewer if you just understood how light would fall on the form, whether it's from a direct light source or from a reflected light source. Okay?
Yeah.
And so you'd have even more, and you wouldn't have to do that everywhere. It would just be some areas that you would indicate just to create some understanding, and the viewer can say that you really knew what you were doing. Okay? So, good job. All right? All right. Anybody else in this room? Yeah.
Comment on this. This is our friend Terry.
Friend Terry.
Yeah.
All right, Terry. So this is another beautiful piece here. Nice color, nice harmony, blue harmony. Okay. It's painterly. In other words, you can see the brush strokes and you can see the layers of opaque wash and transparent wash and glazes. You know, the understanding of where you obviously place the focal point is pretty traditional. There's a nice understanding of where that happened is. It's simplified enough. You really don't have more than 3 areas of interest. The focal point, somewhere else, and somewhere else. So you've calmed it down. Where'd you go? I want to see you. There you are. So when you're painting like this, you get to a certain part where every brush stroke that you make can either make or break the painting. That means, you know, the old artist, you know, wanted to paint it, the other stopped him from ruining it. If you know, you got to like put the brush stroke on and take a break. You know, if I take this out, for instance, or if I limit the you know, the contrast here, this becomes less important. So I'm more apt to, if you squint your eyes, I'm more apt to stay here. But it's just competing a little bit too much for, you know, my appeal. But anyway, so I like the way it's framed and presented. It would also look nice on, you know, maybe a darker wall or even a darker frame. Okay, this is the thing with darker paintings, moodier paintings. You want to frame them with a frame that is not darker or not lighter than the lightest mid-tone. So, because this contrast here actually takes you away from the important parts of the painting. So, whereas if this were just a black frame, we wouldn't notice the frame. Or if it were a dark wood frame, we wouldn't notice the frame. Okay? So you're just creating a little edge here. Even if this were on a dark wall, you could still, even by putting my hand right next to this here, okay, and toning down the wall, you can see the contrast of the frame next to the piece. So it's light. It's a nice frame. But maybe you want to think about toning it down so this becomes more important. All right, that's the goal. Focal point, boom. Don't have to effort, boom. And I don't want competing attention. I say I don't want. I mean, yeah. What do I know? All right, anybody else? Any other paintings in here that you're curious about?
I've got one right around the corner.
How are we doing? Is it okay? You're learning things here?
Yeah.
Okay.
This one. Frame itself.
Okay, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this off. I'm going to bring it in here, okay? This, I need you to start painting larger.
I do paint larger.
Do you?
Yes.
This is a great piece. This is really, really nice. Yeah, you need to be working like 6 foot by 8 foot, or 4 feet by 6 feet, or 3 feet by 4 feet. This type of painting demands a larger format. This is like a maquette. You know what a maquette is? A maquette is a small representation of a sculpture for one that's going to be 6 to 8 feet. Okay? You just blow it up. Okay? So this has such potential, this type of painting, this abstract expressionism basically, with a few little symbols of numbers in there. I don't even think those numbers were important in this. Mm-hmm. You know, it's almost too literal, like you're saying, now you're going to get us thinking, what does she mean by those numbers?
If I was doing it now, I'd have told them that.
Are you into numerology?
No.
Well, then,
I just like numbers.
Why'd you choose those numbers, though?
I just can't.
No, I'm not going to sleep tonight because I just don't know. See, you're going to be, yeah. But there is mystery there. So what I would do, instead of making them all the same value and same color, I would have sanded one of them, and I would have lined one, the most important, out. I would have made them more subliminal.
And I could have scattered them too. I mean, a lot.
You could have scattered them.
Right.
Right now, because they are so, I mean, they're so in your face. See what happens when I get rid of them? Yeah. We get the other part of it, but now it's like.
Oh, that's the price of the painting. 987 is refunded.
Oh! You know, it is a mirror, right?
Yes, of course.
This painting really, you know, would look terrific in a mirror. So wherever you place it, put it in front of a mirror. And when you're showing people your painting, have them look in the mirror at it.
All right. Good,
okay?
Good.
Have you done that? Have you looked at it in the mirror?
Probably not.
Well, that's another technique. If you get the chance, look at your paintings and your drawings and your artwork in a mirror while you're creating it.
Yeah, sometimes I do. You're right.
Because it gives you greater understanding.
Okay.
Okay, anybody else in here? Anything else?
You talked about the lady looking out the window. It's over in the corner.
Yeah, the lady looking out the window. I'll bring that in here too. What the heck? These are easy to access, and it's a little cooler in this room here. All right, this is really well done. Is this your painting?
No, it's Jim. Is he?
Jim?
Mr.
Okay.
He was.
This reminds me of a 1960s illustration.
Yeah.
Okay, it's got that, you know, the Bernie Fuchs feel to it. You know, and it's all done with washes, which is really cool. Washes on canvas. So it's very transparent. So it's a little, it was just a little too, for me, a little too literal. Yeah. You know, looking through a portal. You know, you get this. This would be great for a magazine illustration or something, okay? Something Reader's Digest or something like that, okay? So it's just, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we look at it and we're saying, oh, I wonder what she's looking at. Bing. All right, over. Okay? But there's not enough variation in texture for me to want to come up and get intimate with the piece. You know, it just seems like it's an underpainting. It's a start. You know, I would actually ask this person if he were here, if he studied, and if he didn't, he should study Andrew Wyeth, okay, who worked with egg tempera and developed surfaces and had textures and, you know, really took some time with it. You know, when I put my hand here, you notice how you go to her face?
Yes.
Okay, so that's also another thing, you know, to think about. Is her face attractive enough or not? So what can you simplify to, you know, to increase the power of the focal point? Okay, so that's what I would say about that. Yeah.
Can you give me some feedback on mine? It's by the restroom.
It's by the restroom? Yeah. I'm sorry. that was not my choosing.
Which one?
Is it the cat or is it the
cat.
The cat?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, to me, it meant death.
It is.
Yeah, it meant death, and I do know that cats are very high animals, and they will actually, you know, when they know someone is passing, they can actually be there and help them transport or transcend through that portal. So I didn't quite get this. I didn't know what that was. I don't even know if it was important. You know, it's interpretive. Is this the weight of the world on her? Is it, you know, it's so strong, but I got the concept, so that's why I got into the show.
Okay.
You know, I mean, death is a portal, right? Just like life, birth and death, right? This is a portal, okay? So
It was kind of flat.
it is kind of flat, and the face, I mean, she looks like she's gone.
She is.
And so maybe the labored aspect of it, when I say labored with watercolor, if you're not careful, you can overwork a watercolor. You remove too much paint if you're not decisive. And in that removal process, if the paper isn't of a quality that can handle that, it'll look like you removed it.
Yeah, it should have been 300 pounds, only 140.
Yeah, I can tell. So there you go. She just looks like she labored, but maybe that's the impact of the piece too.
Well, she did labor.
Yeah.
That's a different issue.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry, you know, but I'm glad it's in the show. You know, this is interesting. The concept is nice. I'm thinking that maybe you didn't need that whole thing. It would have worked more from here over.
So about a fourth of it.
Yeah, you don't need this whole circle here, so you just crop it here, so we stay there. Okay.
That's really
So,
good.
okay, composition is important. Okay. Anybody else in here? While we're in here,
This
yes.
one with the gold frame.
This one here. This reminded me of Matisse.
Yes.
Matisse, yes. So you've been studying Matisse?
This is Mary. Yeah.
Mary Matisse.
Yes, I have. It's not the friend.
So this is beautiful. I think the gold frame kills it. Okay, I know. I know. So we can improve on that, on the gold frame. But the whole aspect of Matisse, you know, Matisse and some of the other fauve painters, okay, the fauvists, the wolves, they worked with the fourth dimension. Did I mention that in class? where they would actually go into a trance and do, you know how people go in and do automatic writing? Huh? They just let your hand, and if you've ever done it before, pick up a pen and just let your hand go and watch what happens. Okay? Something happens and things happen, and it's just bizarre. You can sit here and do this and look every now and then what's going to happen, what draws. Anyways, that's what Matisse would do. Okay, and he would do, you know, I don't know if he would do it this size, but on his larger paintings he would work with a stick with a brush on the end of it so he'd get far back from it, and so he can see the whole thing evolve. Anyways, and he had these patterns and things, and so there's just enough spooky quality to this. I think it's pretty cool. I don't know if this is Medusa or the Statue of Liberty or whatever, but it was enough to take me. I'm not sure I want to go through that portal. Okay, so there's enough painterly quality to it, enough underpainting showing through, nice texture here, and so I get enough that you were at least studying, you know, a master or influenced by some master, that, you know, you're serious about it. And that's the goal here, is to get more serious than you've ever been before about your art. Yes?
What was you thinking when you get done with hers with that?
This one here? This is a really nice piece, okay, and it works well on this wall. The colors are really nice. This is more illustration, I would think. I mean, it could be an illustration for an article or things. You know, there's something there. It's really cool. It's nicely handled. There's some nice rendering. There's some nice understanding of light. One of the things that I chose not to consider it for an award was the fact that it was kind of painted on the side, which to me is more cliche. Okay, and I encourage my students to just paint them black or gray or something instead of having them go around the side. I know it saves. You don't have to get a frame for it and everything, but it's just a little cliche. So can you imagine, like I'm looking at the side here, if it were dark, I wouldn't have to look on the side. Right. It's just adding more to the painting than I need to see. Okay.
But how did that fit into the theme of portals?
Mental disorder. Mental disorder. I mean, I'm already slightly askew, so I understand. Okay? That's why I say there's a multi-dimensional aspect to the concept of portals. Okay. You know, it's like, I think I'm going to go on that tangent. You know, I'm going to go. I'll just drink some absinthe, and then I'll go. So, you know, so there you go. There's a...
It's coming out of a hole or at the bottom, kind of, maybe.
Oh, yeah, okay, fine. That's fine. I didn't study it enough. I did not study it. I didn't see the whole. I just got the avant-garde expression of it. And that was enough to take. I mean, it almost looks clown-like. You know, like these could be clowns, circus clowns, or there's things, it could be a tree. It's just bizarre enough that I have been in mental institutions, not just visiting, of course. But I love it, you know, it's just a great piece. It has a great quality to it. It's a little overwhelming for me too. Okay? Because every aspect of it is important. I love the chin. You know, now that I study it, I understand what it is. So things are happening here, you know. There's too many lines. I would have liked to...
Can you find the 7
Huh?
people? Can you find the 7 people?
Why there's
No, I didn't know. I didn't know.
Chin is a dual purpose.
7 people?
Is it not? Yeah. Okay.
7.
Okay.
I didn't even see
7 selves. So I was right on mental disorder. I was right on schizophrenia.
multiple personalities.
Yeah, multiple personalities. Okay, who's next?
I have things in the front room.
Okay, let's go to the front room. It's a little cooler in here. Let's talk about... Is this artist here?
Who's the artist?
Amazing. Just amazing craftsmanship. This is Chris Provenzo. Just amazing. This is like, how does he find these things? She, I'm sorry. That's like Pat, you know. Chris. Okay. The craftsmanship, the presentation, you know, just, you know, part of it reminds me of Jupiter. Or is it Jupiter? Yeah, Jupiter. You know, with the eye hole. It's like agate. I'd love to turn it around. See, it also has that tactile quality making me want to touch it, but I won't. I won't.
Yeah.
You know, I do. I want to spin it. I want to feel it.
That way.
Huh?
Turn it around. She made it that way.
You could turn it?
Yeah, please turn it. Please turn it. She did it that exactly.
Awesome.
Oh, wow.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Oh, yes, yes.
Is that wood or stone?
This is stone.
And so is
It's
the base.
stone.
What's the, does it say what it is? Just stone?
Banded rhyolite. Okay, so this person knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
I pay attention to this person, big time. And like I said, the presentation, they know what they're doing. Okay, this is too inexpensive for that piece, in my opinion. And when I put it here in this corner, I wanted it to be the only piece like that. And then I matched up some, you know, some of the photographs that had portals, you know, things. This one I wanted in the same neighborhood because it was repeating a theme. This reminded me of death, which is a portal. Another door, another transition. This is a horse that's stuck in between the corral and freedom.
On the photograph to the left.
This here?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm at choice on where I want to go. You know, I want to go up the stairs and then continue up or look through the window. Okay, it's taking me somewhere, at least up. Okay, it's giving me some place to go. And it's kind of seedy. You know, it might be from a homeless shelter or some place that, you know, where transients lived. In fact, it's boarded up. Not many people go there. It could be a abandoned asylum. It could be, you know, it could be. So that, you know, it's open to interpretation. And so there's just enough mystery in there to keep me going and in there. So that is a portal. I can go there and now the seeds are planted and I'll think about that for the rest of my life. Huh? I'm going to be different after today. I'm going to be different because I've been, you know, I've been challenged to articulate each one of these things in my process and what it does for me and why it fits the criteria. All right, so that makes me a little more certain of myself and you know, so I can make other choices in the future too. Okay, any others in here?
On that? You referenced it there, but that's...
Beautiful technique, nice color. Okay, it's a beautiful presentation. It's all good. It's like, who does the mandalas here? Who's the artist that does the mandalas? She's not here right now. Okay, I can see through things here. I appreciate the medium. It's called Twilight. Okay, that's fine. The title's not important. More to me, it was the craftsmanship and the presentation and the concept and the idea, and it met it. So it made it in the show. Okay, so you know, I think that's relatively inexpensive for a piece like that.
It's a photograph.
Yeah, and you can do more of them, huh? Yeah, I understand. Okay, you know, it's some serious work though. You obviously know what you're doing. Is this your piece?
Yes.
Okay, you know what you're doing.
It's digitalized.
So it'd be interesting to see a series of your work alone. Like you need to, when this art center happens, they need to have a space that has, you know, artists in residence and or places for solo exhibitions. Okay, and I don't mean just by members that are here, but I mean for juried, you know, so they can allow artists to come in and you know, present a serious, you know, thesis.
Studies, yeah.
Absolutely, it's, you know, and that will level, you know, elevate the art center and just make it a more serious place, and it's on its way.
Yeah, it's on its way.
Yeah.
I have one more there. That one down at the.
All right, portal. I've been to me, I don't know what it was. It was on a roof, I was on a train, I didn't know, but I've been on a roof in India. I've been on that kind of, you know, thing. So that kind of took me to another place.
It's on a train.
It's on a train, yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. The only thing I'll say about that is also for your education, you ever heard of raga? You know what ragas are? The native Indian culture for thousands of years have been writing music based on the moments in time, like the exact moment when the green flash happens, or you know, the last minute of sun before it goes below. They'll write an entire composition in music, and it's called a raga. So, you kind of captured that feeling without even knowing it. So I just said ragas, and now you Google ragas and listen to Indian music, and see how that can help you go deeper into that if that interests you. You don't have to.
Oh, it does.
So
2 minutes left.
2 minutes. Okay.
This piece over here.
This one right here. Spooky but nice. Spooky but nice. Sad. Slightly askew. I definitely get it, man. It's not a happy piece, but that's a high. That's high. Well, it looks like she's crying in there. I'm getting more this kind of feeling. So that's just me. That's my initial impression. They look like they're trapped in there.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the way. That's what I'm getting. So. And the fact that this is here, they're stuck, but at least there's some hope because the bar made out of the sticks is broken, and so maybe it keeps us on edge, right? Keeps us on edge of unknowing. We're knowing but not knowing. Nice execution, nice presentation. It's beautiful. Each one of these has its own individual, flavor and importance. They're good. Sometimes it's overwhelming to see too many, which is why I weeded out so many paintings. Can you imagine what it was like if I allowed in another 25 paintings in here? It's too much for us. So.
And do you help put them together? I mean, when
Yes, I helped to group them and get them in certain neighborhoods, and then I didn't do the actual hanging. I left that to them. So I'd like to thank you guys very much. And thank you, Larry. Thank you very much for this. All right. Did we do it? Did we do the type? We got enough? All right. Okay.
It's going to be on YouTube, and it's going to be on our Facebook.
Awesome.
And that's why I didn't come in, because it was so crowded.
Yeah.
So I knew
Yeah.
I'd get to hear what was going on.
Awesome. That's
Facebook,
fantastic.
YouTube, and our website.
Send me the links. This is all
You've
good.
been so generous.
Okay.
That glass piece is mine, and
Is
I'm
it?
just wondering how it made it into the shop.
How it made